its hold on the Republican Party. But Dana Milbank provided a great TikTok in his Washington Post column looking at notable events in the past week that suggest that many Republicans and their supporters are growing weary of the Tea Party's grip on the GOP. Let me run you through the chain of events. Last Thursday, Governor Bobby Jindal from Louisiana told the RNC, as you heard, that it's time for the GOP to stop being the stupid party. On Friday, Virginia Governor McDonnell put an end to the talk of rigging the electoral system to benefit Republicans. That same day, Fox News said thanks, but no thanks to Sarah Palin. On Saturday, word leaked that Speaker John Boehner had called some of his own members hardheads. And on Monday, John McCain and Tea Party darling Marco Rubio both signed on to an immigration proposal that's not all enforcement. It includes a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants already in the states. Dana Milbank is with me tonight, along with MSNBC political analyst Joan Walsh of Salon. Joan, are you buying the demise of the Tea Party argument that Dana has made?
I would love to, but I think it's a little too soon. And Dana says that himself. All of these data points are real. Michael, I guess the only one I would take issue with is the Bobby Jindal characterization, because Bobby Jindal, I think, remains, talks a good game, but remains a very, very conservative force and a Tea Party force because, he's trying to do away with personal income taxes, and he wanted to eliminate hospice care for Medicaid patients. And so this perspective on spending that the Tea Party brought certainly hasn't gone away. Anytime you've got 36 United States senators who voted down Sandy relief a couple days ago, you know that something has fundamentally changed about the way Republicans talk about government. So I think it's too early to say that they're dead, but all the things that Dana points to are good signs and signs of some kind of sanity seeping in.
And Dana, maybe it's all in a name, because I think what continues on for sure is this conservative domination, particularly in Republican primaries. I mean, here you've got Mitch McConnell being threatened now in Kentucky in next year's election from the right.
Right. And the Tea Party's never really been an organized political force, and I'm using that as sort of a shorthand for the far right that's been dominating the party right now. And as I point out in the column, that force really isn't going anywhere because of the redistricting, because of the way things are structured in the House, and because of this primary system. We also have Saxby Chambliss in Georgia bowing out rather than face a primary challenge. This element of the party is going to be dominant for some time to come. So the Tea Party itself isn't over, but what I think you have is some of the more sober revelers in the Tea Party are heading for the exits because they realize this thing is getting rowdy and the police are going to be showing up and it's going to get really ugly. I think that's what's going on here. People who have national aspirations, who are interested in 2016, who realize the party has to change, are growing a bit of bravery right now and saying we can't continue to tolerate this.
Well, let's take a look at where the Tea Party stands among Americans. A CNN opinion research poll taken this past November shows the Tea Party has a 50% unfavorable rating. That's nearly double what it was in 2010. Meanwhile, the Tea Party's favorable rating has pretty much stayed the same. Joan, I think that Dana makes a great point when he talks about hyperpartisan districts. I'll use that language. Nate Silver had a tremendous analysis recently and said, 435 congressional districts in the country, and really only 35 of them are in play. Well, those that are held by Republicans are still going to have this influence in them, regardless of whether we refer to them as the Tea Party types.
That's exactly right. I call it gerrymandering. I'm fine with that word. But basically, what you're seeing is that those districts, people are only afraid of a primary challenge from the right. They don't have to fear any Democrats or centrist Republicans. And then you also have, the states that are solid red states, like Georgia, for example. You could have a Paul Brun decide that he's going to be. There will be a couple of tests. That'll be one of them, and I think Iowa will be another one. Does Steve King somehow emerge to sadly, tragically possibly take Tom Harkin's seat, or does somebody more centrist come out with the Republican nomination? Because Iowa is not a red state; it's certainly purple. So, but in the red states like Kentucky and Georgia, and in the really red districts, you're still going to have this extremist view about government and about spending, and also about immigration. I'm really curious to watch this unfold and see the education of Marco Rubio and whether he is doing this to appear centrist, appear reasonable, but quickly backs down to the forces of reaction, or whether he perseveres with this and really tries to get something done.
Well, let's not forget the Tea Party-aligned folks such as Christine O'Donnell, Ken Buck, Sharon Angle, and Richard Murdoch, plus Todd Akin, who was, I guess, technically a Tea Party candidate, but was in spirit only. They all lost Senate elections that should have been slam dunks for Republicans. Dana, the GOP needs to be careful because they want to keep that as part of their constituency. They just don't want them running the show, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right, and if you put together all of those candidates that you just mentioned, and these were all safe seats for the Republicans in the Senate, had they won those seats, they would be in charge of the United States Senate today. So it's not just an abstract notion. They've really blown it. So they needed to harness the energy that was coming from this Tea Party from the far right, but not be taken over by it. I think a lot of sensible voices in the party are saying, we've got a problem here. If we ever want to win again, we've got to do something about it. But yet, they've structured the system this way so that all of their members are just terrified, as Joan was saying, of losing in a primary far more than they are of defying the general will of the American electorate. So the problem is going to be here for a long time, but you're seeing, the Chris Christies, the Marco Rubios, and even, if not in policy, at least in rhetoric, the Bobby Jindals beginning to say, we've got to change something.
And Joan Walsh, briefly, the GOP cannot afford to have those folks bolt the party and form maybe some form of a libertarian effort on their own. That would be a death knell for the GOP.
Right. And, Chris Christie isn't a libertarian. So, the strains that they represent, too, are different strains of the Republican Party that the party needs to hold together to be a national party. So I don't think that's going to happen. But if those voices of slight reform get completely muddled, something's going to happen because it will not be a national party.
Joan Walsh, thank you very much. Dana Milbank, congrats.